Hi, everyone. On this Ash Wednesday, we've gathered together to give you an overview of the statement of value reports that we have just emailed to you. Let's just kind of walk through this project that we're asking you to do. Today on the line, we've got Jim Dickenson, the market president for Frost Insurance, and Rod Barber is our co-chair of the Risk Management Committee. And of course, many of you know me. I'm Kristi Heffron here in the Dickenson office. I am the Director of Finance and Business Administration. I've got my contact information there because if you have any questions at all, I'm kind of your first point of contact and I'll get you. If I don't have the answer, I'll get you in contact with the person that does. So, why are we doing this project now? Jim's going to kind of explain why this is an important thing for us to do now.
Thank you, Kristi. Yes, and hello, everybody. Yeah, so the statement of values and the blanket approach versus scheduled limits and what we're doing and why we need to go through this exercise. So in years past, the property insurance program for the diocese, we had the benefit of what's known as blanket coverage. And roughly speaking, in the past, the diocese had blanket insurance limits of about $110 million. And so what we did to get to that $110 million value, the limit value, is we had estimated the replacement costs for each of the churches and your contents or business personal property and reported that to the insurance company and said, here's an estimate of the total values of the diocese. Again, around $110 million. With the blanket approach, if we were short, if we were a little bit low on what the actual cost to replace a building is, it was okay because you had the benefit of having the full $110 million in coverage behind you, meaning that, for example, if you have a church building that was reportedly the cost to replace was $750,000, but in reality the cost to replace is $1 million, and you were to have a total loss of that building, say fire or tornado destroyed it, well, the policy would have paid the full 1 million to replace it, even though it had been reported as 750 in values. With today's market conditions and in an effort to reduce costs on your insurance spend, the blanket valuation approach isn't available to us. Instead, we have schedule of limits. And with the schedule of limits, then it becomes very important that each of our church buildings and our business personal property or contents is insured to the true value to replace that property rather than values that may not be adequate.
Thanks, Jim. So, who should be involved in this project? Making sure that our churches are properly insured to the right values is truly the responsibility of each vestry and their rector. So, we're suggesting that you all take this responsibility seriously. We're hoping that by the end of this video, you'll be ready to embrace this responsibility and begin your project. And we're suggesting that you recruit others in your church who may have experience in this area or expertise in buildings or in insurance. So, Jim, how should they begin this project? It seems kind of like a big ask that we're asking people to do, but what are we suggesting is the next steps for them to take?
Yeah, great question. It does seem like a really big ask, but really, it's not that challenging, not that difficult. Every year with the insurance renewal, which happens on January the 1st, our office and my team here at Frost sends to every church a couple of documents. One is an evidence of property form or an EOP. That evidence of property form is specific to each church, and it is listing for you the building insured values for each one of your buildings, as well as the contents or business personal property in each one of your buildings. And for the purposes of this exercise, Christy, I understand that each of the churches is receiving their current EOP along with the link to this video, correct?
That's correct, Jim.
Okay, thank you. And then So from there, we're giving you a document that says, okay, here's what we're saying that your church is insured for today, may or may not be the right value, which is why we're doing this exercise. So then you might be asking yourself, well, I'm not a contractor. I have no idea what it would cost to replace my building. So to assist with that evaluation, we're also preparing and have prepared and you have available to you a Marshall Swift replacement cost estimate through a company called CoreLogic. Marshall Swift replacement cost estimates are just that. They're an estimate. It is the industry standard, the acceptable standard for replacement cost estimates for insurance purposes. Um, I'm not suggesting that it is absolutely correct and spot on, but I am suggesting that it is the industry standard. And this software has built in it a ton of assumptions. So know that what we're able to manipulate is, square footage, type of construction, the location, where your buildings are located, and those kinds of things. And after that, the software really has, again, a great number of assumptions. So when you get this replacement cost estimate, we would ask that you review it closely. And if there are inaccuracies in what you see in the description of the valuations, and we can adjust some of those. And then the other thing that's really important for our churches, especially, is to think about special characteristics of your church buildings and how that might affect your actual cost to replace. So, for example, built-in pipe organs, ornate or highly valuable or expensive glass, or if you have in particular parts of your church buildings, maybe some very high-end finishing. So again, understanding that the software is going to contemplate that um, um, the churches have some standard type of building characteristics. Yours may have some special characteristics that need to be considered, and we can talk about those. Um, the other thing that you can do for replacement cost estimate is, aside from the software, is frankly, if you have the name of a relationship with a contractor that is qualified to replace your church building, if heaven forbid we do lose it in a fire or tornado, a contractor who's local and in your area could come out and do a survey of your property and say, I believe that I could replace this building for X. And so, again, that's probably a more accurate replacement cost estimate than the software, but you would have the software to compare with it.
And can you give us a quick word about so on that EOP, there's the property value, but there's also the content value.
Yep, great question. So, keeping in mind that we're talking about replacement cost for your buildings and your contents or the business personal property. The insured values always need to be the replacement costs, not depreciated value, not appraised value, taxable value, but the actual cost to replace the building and the contents today, right? So, as it relates to your contents or business personal property, a comprehensive inventory is ideal. Short of an inventory, for certainly with our churches that maybe aren't as they're not large churches, but large buildings. Simply going from room to room and taking a quick visual inventory, maybe taking videos. In fact, I really highly recommend that at least on an annual basis that your vestry go through your church buildings and videotape every room. Just walk in the door and take a quick video inventory of everything that's in that room, making sure that you're opening closets and storage and those kinds of things, just to be sure that, if you did have a significant loss, you're trying to think of, well, gosh, what were all the things that we actually had in that room? Then with the video, it would help you a great deal. But again, you're looking for the cost to replace. So I know that oftentimes, I'll be in our churches and go into a room and say, okay, so for example, I see a conference table and 8 chairs around it. There's a filing cabinet and those kinds of things. And oftentimes we'll say, well, I could replace that table and those chairs and that cabinet for $500 at some used furniture place. Well, for insurance purposes, we want to talk about the cost to actually replace it today. And, we don't want you going out and having to buy used furniture. You want to be able to have your insurance take care of the actual cost to replace all of your contents.
Thanks, Jim. So we've attached to this email your evidence of property form. We've attached the Marshall Swift form, and we suggest that you take those things as well as input from other people and consider your specific church structure. And what do we want them to do next?
So, as you said, let's gather all the data, gather the information. If once you've considered the replacement cost estimate that we provided through the Marshall Swift software, then reach out to Kristi in the diocesan office and talk about the updated values. In some cases, you may find that the software says that there's a recommendation that you could reduce the values. I think probably more likely you're going to see that the software is going to recommend that you increase it to more current values. Understand that this exercise has been done in the past, but it was some years ago, and certainly well before COVID. And unfortunately, after COVID, the cost to repair and replace property, just building materials, the cost of lumber, the cost of paint, and all the kinds of construction materials really skyrocketed following COVID, along with the labor to provide all that work. So, the cost to repair and replace today is certainly significantly different than it was some years ago when this project was done previously.
Yes, that's true. So make sure that you're meeting together as your leadership team. We're here to help. Again, I'm your first line of contact. So if you need assistance, please reach out to us. We want you to discuss and pray and decide this together. And then you would inform our office here at the diocese of your new insured values. So before you make all those decisions, though, you probably want to know how it's going to affect your premium. So, um, Jim, how do they calculate this?
Yeah, so this looks a whole lot more complex than it is. The property premium is simply the mathematical equation of your insured values divided by $100, and then you multiply that number by the property rate, which today for the 2026 policy year is 0.543 or 54.3 cents per $100 of value. So, for example, if your church building needs to be insured at $1 million, then you take that $1 million number, divide it by 100, which is 10,000, multiply that times the rate of 54.3 cents per hundred, and that premium would be $5,430 per year for a $1 million building. So, for example, if today your building happened to be insured at $750,000 and it should be insured at $1 million, then you can take your current premium and simply increase it by 25%. And that would get you to what your annual premium will cost on a go forward basis. And know that it would be on a pro rata basis for the remainder of the policy year, not the full annual premium.
Okay, sorry about that. My hand hit something and just whipped through our slides there, but that's okay. So everybody's got this. How do you calculate your premium? And then what's next? So you've gathered all your documents, you've met as a vestry, you've discussed it, you've prayed about it, you've gotten input from whoever you need it from us, from outside experts. And so what are we wanting you to do? We want you to get to work. We would like all church reviews to be done as soon as possible. But we'd like them no later than June 1 if you can. So it's not like the house is on fire, an emergency, but we do need you to begin this project and begin to think about it. Reach out to us if you'd like more assistance in determining the value, and then notify us as soon as you've got that new insured value, and we will get it updated. So thank you so much for listening to this, for making it all the way to the end, and for beginning this project. But any last minute words, Rod or Jim, before we bid them to do this audacious project?
I'd throw in there that this project is important to you and your parish, but it's not complex. And the diocese staff and everybody is willing to help you and answer questions. So just reach out and then let's do it to the glory of God.
There you go. Jim?
Oh, just that, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to spend some time with you today, Kristi, to talk about this. And just know that we're here to assist. And whatever questions you have, please don't hesitate to reach out, and we will help you get this accomplished as soon as possible.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. Be sure to give me a call or an email if you need any help.